Good morning, fourth graders. Are you ready to start a new book? I hope that a lot of you really enjoyed our last read aloud. I only got through the 2 chapters in Swindle, but maybe you guys will want to continue reading that one on your own. But as promised, I said when one of the 2 stories that you voted on, Land of Stories or Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus, became available, I would read those to you. So I want to do a shout out to our new publishing company for this story, Sterling Publications. Thank you for allowing us to use your book online. So chapter 1, and I have to tell you, I don't know anything about this book at all. So I'm really excited. The lesson this week is to determine the theme of a story. We'll probably have to get several chapters in before we can even try to inference what the theme is, but be watching for a theme and think about what are the details that are leading us towards what was the author trying to express by writing this story. So here we go, chapter 1. When I was little, a kid pointed at me on the playground and shouted, "Her arms fell off!" then ran away screaming in terror to his mom, who had to cuddle him on her lap and rub his head for like 10 minutes to get him to calm down. I think up until then, I hadn't thought about the idea that my arms must have actually fallen off at some point in my life. I never really thought about not having arms at all. My missing arms? Well, they weren't an issue for me or for my parents. I never once heard either of them say, "Oh no, Avon can't possibly do that because that's only for armed people," or "Poor Avon is so helpless without arms," or Maybe Avon can do that one day, if she ever grows some arms. They always said things like, "You'll have to do this differently from other people, but you can manage. And I know this is challenging, but keep trying. And you're capable of anything, Avon." Now, I'm going to let you decide. Do you think her name is pronounced Avon? It's Aven. With proper nouns, we don't always know for sure, but I'm going to call her Avon. So I had never realized just how different I was until the day that horrible kid shouted at my arms that they must have fallen off. For the first time, I found myself aware of my total armlessness. And I guess I felt like I was sort of naked all of a sudden. So I too ran to my mom, and she scooped me up and carried me away from the park, allowing my tears and my snot to soak her shirt. Good mom. As she drove us home that day, I sat whimpering in my car seat and asked her what had happened to my arms and why they had fallen off. She told me they hadn't fallen off. I was just born like that. I asked her how I could get some new ones. She said I couldn't. I waited in despair. Then I wailed. And she told me to stop crying because having arms was totally overrated. I didn't know what overrated meant at the time, because like I said, I was really little, and so was my brain. I kind of figured it out over the next few days, though, because my parents were constantly saying things like, "Coloring this picture with my hands is okay, but if only I could color it with my feet, like Avon. And now that would be fantastic. And eating spaghetti with my arms is just so boring. I sure wish I could eat it with my feet." And the only person I know who can pick their nose with their toe? You guessed it, Avon. She sure is special. Very special little girl. Dad even went so far as to ask Mom if there were any arm removal services in the area. Growing up, I could do most everything everyone else with arms could do. Eating cereal, brushing my teeth and hair, getting dressed. Yes, even wiping my own bottom. I know you're instantly wondering, how could I do that? Maybe I'll tell you later. Maybe. But until then, you'll just have to live in suspense. Sure, these things take longer for me. Sometimes they take a lot longer. Sometimes I have to use a special tool like a hook or a strap or something like that. And every now and then I want to scream in frustration and kick a pillow until the stuffing comes out because it's taken me 20 minutes to get my pants buttoned. But I can button them. I think I can do all these things because my parents have always encouraged me to figure things out on my own. Well, more like made me figure things out on my own. I suppose if they had always done everything for me, I would be helpless without them. But they didn't, and I'm not. And now that I'm 13, how many of you have been wondering how old she is? Yeah, me too. But she's 13 years old. She's been doing this a long time. I don't need much help with anything. True story. So when I started kindergarten, the kids were a little weirded out by my lack of armage. Is this a flashback? I got asked just about every day what had happened to my arms, as well as a billion other silly questions like, how do I make farting noises with my armpits when I don't have arms or hands? Or pits? And how do I play dress up? Which I tried showing them and ended up with a poofy pink tutu thing stuck around my head for about 5 minutes before the teacher finally noticed and helped me pull it down to my waist. I got so tired of telling them the same boring story about being born without arms that I just started making stuff up. It was very stinking hilarious. I knew from the first moment I told a girl my arms had burned off in a fire, and I'd found a great hobby, making up stories. I loved the way her eyes grew really wide with the shock and the way her voice went all high-pitched with excitement as she asked me a bunch more questions about my charred arms. Her, what kind of fire accident? Me, oh, a wildfire burning out of control. Her, where? Me, in the mountains of Tanzania. I honestly don't know where Tanzania is or was, or if it had any mountains. I think I had heard the name in an episode of Scooby-Doo or something. That was in parentheses. Another question. Her, how old were you? Me, just helpless, baby. My mom barely rescued me in time. She pulled me from my burning crib and raced out of our flaming village, leaving a trail of fire all the way down the mountain as my arms burned to a crisp. They looked like 2 pieces of bacon by the time we got to the village hospital. Another kid standing nearby. Cooked or uncooked? So I kind of traumatized her and had to have a meeting with my parents and the teacher later about this story. My parents squinted their eyes and pursed their lips and nodded their heads as the teacher told them, Avon told another child that her arms burned off in a wildfire in the mountains of Tanzania. She peered at them over her glasses, frowning. She also mentioned something about bacon. I'd never seen such serious looks on my parents' faces before, like they were concentrating so hard on being serious, their heads might explode if they blinked. They said, seriously? They would talk to me about it and shook the teacher's hand seriously and gave me serious looks as we walked seriously out of school. But I could tell they weren't mad because all the way home, one of them would softly snort and then the other would giggle and then the other would shake from laughing but trying not to laugh out loud and on like that all the way home. They later told me just to be truthful so I didn't upset any of the other kids, that I had to be truthful. And I did for a long time. But then one day in 5th grade, we had this new kid come to our school. Parentheses. I had gone to the same school since kindergarten, so all my friends knew I was just born with no arms. When I sat down at lunch with this kid, he said, "Whoa, what happened to your arms?" Okay, is she going to tell another lie? All my friends were looking at me. What can I say? It exploded out of me like an overfilled water balloon. So that means she's going to what? I told this crazy story about how I had rescued a puppy that had been tied to the train tracks just in time before a train nearly ran over it. Just in time for the puppy, but not just in time for my poor, flattened arms. You should have seen the look on that kid's face. It was priceless. My best friend, Emily, burst out laughing. My friend Kayla spit chocolate milk across the table. And the new kid realized it was a joke and started laughing too. Pretty soon, everyone was constantly asking me, "Hey, Avon, where'd your arms go?" And I would have a new story to tell. Over time, my stories got more and more ridiculous. Alligator wrestling in the Everglades in Florida, freak roller coaster accidents, skydiving trip gone wrong. I made my stories as ridiculous as possible so people would always know I was joking. I grew up with those kids. I never felt out of place or anything like that. My armlessness wasn't strange or weird to them because, well, like I said, I had always gone to the same school. I never imagined my parents would make me leave. I thought they would make me move. I never thought they would make me move all the way to Arizona and go to a new school right after starting the 8th grade. Then again, I never imagined I would save the Old West, perform for an audience in the desert, and solve a mystery? You'd be surprised at all I'm capable of, though, even without arms. What a great beginning to our new story. So, a couple flashbacks back to when she was a baby, back to some school pranks. But now we're going to apparently jump into a whole new school, 8th grade, and the plot thickens. But at least we've got a little bit of setting, and we know a little bit about at least our main character. And I would say we know a little bit about her parents, too. Few little clues. So kind of think about that. Remember, tomorrow we Zoom at 11 a.m. Maybe I'll get chapter 2 posted before that. We'll see. And for the Zoom meeting, please remember to bring an example of one of the things you created in the final step of either reading, math, social studies, or science. Okay, till then, enjoy. Have a great day.